Guns are crucial to self-defense. When you have seconds to live and help is 10 minutes away. Guns are fun, they're a lot of fun, but they're also a great tool to defend yourself, your family, or your country. So let's discuss which guns to use depending on the situation, because situation varies a lot, so the type of gun you're gonna need will also vary a lot. It's all about having the right tool for the right situation. For example, your lovely pickup truck that you love to go mudding with might not be the perfect tool to take your wife on a romantic date. And if so, you are really lucky.
Nice.
Number one, keep up with the man. Do comply with all applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations regarding guns. There are plenty of perfectly legal ways to protect yourself. Some states are not gun-friendly or even self-defense friendly.
Oh my God.
In which your options are very limited. Sadly, it will make you at the mercy of criminals, and you will have 11 minutes to wait on average when you really have only seconds to protect yourself and your family. In states, you have many more options. Yay! Some of which can be pretty cool. Still comply with the law, as you have many perfectly legal options. Number two, open carry versus concealed carry. Many states allow for open carry, and I love having that right, but I still usually do use concealed carry. Open carry makes a lot of people very nervous. So if you're going to the supermarket holding your AR-15, they're gonna call the police. Now, eventually, things will be cleared out and you'll be fine.
Perfect.
But you will have spent a lot of time, energy, and dealt with a lot of unnecessary stress. So that's why I still like concealed carry. Number three, self-defense at home. Well, the good news, there's a lot of options there, as there's usually plenty of storage place in your house. And also in those situations, you're not gonna have to move very much. Part of the assessment will be what kind of threat are you facing? Is it a gang moving in next door? Or even worse, your in-laws coming to visit next week?
Emotional damn!
Another factor is where you live. Do you live in a city, an urban environment? Do you live in the country, or do you live in the middle of nowhere? You always have to remember that bullets travel a long way and can penetrate through many obstacles. Handguns are great for home. Easy to store, easy to carry, and usually relatively low penetration. Personally, at home, because I've got a lot of space and I'm not gonna have to run around much, I'd rather carry something with more oomph and capacity. Hello, AR-15, my friend. Shotguns will also be great at home, however, they're not my first choice. I mean, the good news is they have relatively low penetration, but they're slow, difficult to reload, and there's a lot of recoil. Also, if you're gonna use a shotgun, I would suggest to not do what this guy suggested.
Put that double barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house,
Which is probably a felony. At home, my first choice is a carbine. Lightweight, easy to move around, easy to shoot, and great capacity. Now, do keep in mind that the bullets are going to have a higher penetration, so be very careful about what you're shooting at, what's on the target, and what's behind the target. One downside is the deafening sound. If you shoot one of those indoors. The bears, the bears, the bears. It will mess up your hearing then and for many weeks after. The perfect solution for me in a house is the 300 Blackout or the 8.6 Blackout if a well-armed bear is trying to break into my house. But otherwise the 300 Blackout is perfect. The gun is very light, it's very easy to shoot, it has low recoil, high capacity, and I usually shoot it with a suppressor, but even without a suppressor, as long as you have subsonic ammo, it will be manageable. At the supermarket or at the opera, then the choice for me is simple. It has to be a handgun. It's easy to carry and it's easy to conceal. Also, carrying an open AR-15 while you're at the supermarket trying to pick up watermelons is not that easy. For me, I carry either a revolver or a small pistol depending on the situation. And very often I will carry a small revolver with 38 special hollow point ammo. It is small, but it still has 8 rounds of ammunition. So it's super reliable, easy to shoot with 38 special. It will always work, and there's no extra manipulation to do in terms of stress. Now, if I'm strolling into the woods and I'm being threatened or attacked by a pack of well-armed wild wolves, then I will carry this big boy, still 8 rounds, loaded with 357 Magnum. Whoa.
That was easy.
Now, if I'm concerned about a higher threat or being involved in a gunfight, then I will carry a semi-auto pistol, 9mm with defensive hollow point rounds. Light, manageable recoil, and more important, 15-round magazines. So a lot of ammunition, and you can reload and put another magazine fairly quickly if you practice a lot. Now, if you carry a pistol or semi-auto, whether you carry a Glock type gun or 19 or 2011, it's a personal choice. They all have pros and cons, and I went into much more details in a separate video. Obviously, I do not carry my pistol with a suppressor, although if I'm wearing a black tie and I'm at the opera, then I should carry with a suppressor, so I'm not going to interfere with the area and spoil everybody's moment. In your car or truck, in my view, the situation is similar to what would happen at home, so very likely a handgun. You need to make sure that it's stored in a safe way, but at the same time easily reachable if you need it. This is why very often when I drive for a long time, I do a cross carry. Because like this, if I'm sitting and driving, easily to reach. Keep in mind that the guns need to be stored safely if you need, for any reason, to leave it in the vehicle. The last thing you don't want is to show up and somebody break your window, grab and drive into the sunset with it. On the other hand, kind of depending on where you are, where you're going, there's a fair amount of space in a truck. So there are times where a carbine or a shotgun might be more appropriate. But then you have to start worrying about local laws, regulation, open versus conceal, because you can't really conceal carry a big gun. So it's an option, but a bit more difficult one to implement. On the other hand, there's usually more space in a truck than carrying on yourself, so there might be plenty of times where it would be better or appropriate to have a carbine or a shotgun. Let's say, for example, the apocalypse happens while you're driving to get a burger. Then the shotgun or carbine will come very handy as you're surrounded by hordes of zombies. However, if you're going to use a carbine or a shotgun, just make sure you comply with applicable laws. In conclusion, there's a lot of great options for using guns for self-defense. As I mentioned, make sure you comply with applicable laws, and also please make sure that you practice a lot, because you need to be very comfortable with this gun if you have to use it in times of high stress, which will always be the case in a self-defense situation. Your body, your adrenaline will take over your mind.